And the New York Knicks have had an inconsistent start, to say the least, this year so far. They're currently sitting at an 11-11 record. They just lost a close game to the Chicago Bulls last night by the score of, I believe it was 119 to 115, if memory serves me correct. It just, this year, it really hasn't worked out. I think that Knicks fans were originally hoping, after the success that they had last year, getting all the way to the fourth seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs last year. So, Kevin, to take this one to you, what's really been the main issue for the Knicks this season so far?
From what I can see, from what I've talked to my Nick friends, my Nick fan friends, it's inconsistencies. It's defensive liabilities. Obviously, the lack of being able to score consistently on the offensive end. I know that sounds basic, but I mean that's what it comes down to. Um, Obviously, with what happened with Kemba Walker is probably no help either. Kemba Walker signed with the Knicks this offseason after being bought out by the Oklahoma City Thunder. Um, it was kind of like a welcome home kind of thing for him, obviously, with him being from the Bronx. And he is now officially out of the rotation completely. When he's on the floor, they have one of the worst offensive ratings. And when he's on the floor for the defensive side of the ball, they have the worst defensive rating, and it's abysmal. And I mean, like, statistics do not lie. It is a very, very, very big difference when Kemba Walker is on the floor as a whole. Literally, on the defense or offensive side, the team is a completely different team when he doesn't touch the floor, and it's crazy. Now, I understand what I'm saying is, like I said, very basic, but when you're not capitalizing on the offensive end, you're losing to good teams. They lost a close one to Brooklyn the other night. They're losing to Chicago. They've lost to Orlando twice this season. You really have to look at it and say, are we shooting ourselves in the foot? Are we turning the ball over? Are we capitalizing on the defensive side of the basketball? I don't know. I don't watch enough Knick games to have enough to really sit here and dissect exactly what it is that's going wrong. Now, you ask me a Mavericks question, I can tell you what the fuck's going on, but that's neither here nor there. So I'm just looking at this and I'm saying they played the Bulls a few weeks back, and the Bulls fell short, and the Knicks won. Now the Bulls actually come out here and they get another close victory, but DeRozan goes for 34, Vucevic goes for 27, Zach LaVine goes for 27. Three of their top four players absolutely annihilate the Knicks as a unit. I mean, between two players, they scored 54 points, and then you go and you add the other 34 points, and you have 88 points between three players. It's crazy. DeMar DeRozan's having himself a year, by the way. Should be somewhere in the MVP discussion as well. DeMar is cooking this year. But on the Knicks side, they didn't do half bad. People scored in double figures, but they weren't able to stop the superstars of the Bulls. Julius had 30, Burks had 16, Fournier had 16, Quickly had 15, and then D Rose had 16 off the bench. So I'm just looking at numbers here, and I'm trying to make some kind of sense as to what the hell happened. And there wasn't bad percentages on the Knicks side either. The Knicks shot over 50% from the field. They shot just shy of 35% from the three-point line, just shy of 82 from the free throw line. But they had 18 turnovers. They only had 39 rebounds. You see, but the Knicks also had 10 steals. So you could really make a case. It's kind of the flip of a coin here, honestly. And, I don't know what's going on. I know Knicks fans were hyped when the Knicks started, I think, 2-0 or something like that. But you're 11-11. You're 5-7 at home in the Garden. The guy that you went and acquired in the offseason that made a big public deal in terms of the media awareness because he was a hometown kid is now out of the rotation indefinitely and is rumored to be on the trade block. It's just not a good look for New York right now. You know what I'm saying? They fell short to Brooklyn, like I said, and that was a very, very close game to where Julius Randle, for whatever reason, I don't know, Kyle, if you've noticed, whenever they play the Nets, Julius Randle's like always livid and always bitching at the refs. I mean, I think the last two or three games, he's almost gotten into an altercation with the referee and a disagreement. And it's always against the Nets. I'm not even kidding. Like, somebody posted on Twitter the last three games against the Nets, and Randle had something smart to say against in each and every game. But I don't know. Maybe they get under their skin. The point of the matter is the Knicks don't look like the Knicks of last year. They look like they're struggling. They look like they're searching for their identity. And it's not boding well for them thus far. Bing bong.
It really comes down to two factors for me. It's obviously their defensive liabilities. And to be honest with you, they just can't finish games. Because when you look at the majority of the games that they've had this year that have ended in losses, they've been within single digits outside of the Suns game just a couple days ago, where, let's be honest, they got smashed by the Suns. But I mean, it's Phoenix.
A lot of people have.
Phoenix is probably the best team in the NBA right now. So, I mean, if you lose to the Suns in that one, okay, take that one for what it's worth. But it's like you mentioned in some of these games, just their defensive liabilities have really shown against good teams like the Bulls, like the Nets, even against even the Hawks and even the Lakers. Even though that they beat the Hawks, even though that they beat the Lakers, they're still giving up points in the process. And when you're going up against these good teams, specifically like with the Nets and the Bulls, and really like the last two losses that they've had, you have to limit their effectiveness in knocking down shots. And even though that they lost these games relatively close, it really just kind of goes to show just like how thin the margin of error is for this team this year as far as the defensive side of the ball goes. Because offensively, I don't think there's any doubt that the Knicks can score relatively easily with Julius Randle, Derrick Rose, Emmanuel Quickley, Obi Toppin. And there's a multitude of other players on the Knicks roster that can definitely get points. And RJ Barrett as well. I don't want to miss him in that rotation either.
Yeah, I don't think he played today, did he?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but still, I mean, RJ Barrett, you
Yeah,
still have to
I don't
respect.
think so.
You still have to respect his offensive capabilities on that side of the basketball. So overall, I think the Knicks could be able to work out these kinks in their defense. They just have to get the rotations right. They just have to get the personnel groupings right. And I don't think that Kemba really helped that situation as far as their backcourt goes. Because Kevin, both you and I know, Kemba is a great offensive player when he's healthy, but we all know that his defensive capabilities, they're just not that good. That is not a strength of his game. It's really been an issue that's really kind of followed him wherever he's gone in his NBA journey. And I just can't believe at how quickly that Tom Thibodeau already has him out of the rotation. I was really quite surprised at how quick. We're not even a quarter of the way through the season yet, and he's already out of the rotation. So, unfortunately for Knicks fans, the reunion with Kemba didn't work out. I do expect that he will be traded sometime before the trade deadline pops up. But it's like I said, they got to fix their defense, and they got to learn how to win these games at the end. Because some of these games they've lost right at the end. Because they played the Bulls twice. The Bulls game that took place last night only lost by 4 points, but they had definitely a shot to win that game. The Nets game a couple days ago, they were within striking distance, but Julius Randle didn't help the situation by getting a technical foul at the end of the game. That was a really costly mistake that ended up resulting in a loss. And then you look at some of these other games, like the Bulls a couple weeks ago. You look at the Magic game from a couple weeks back. These are games that you got to have. And when you're losing games in close fashion like this, it could be a tough mental hurdle to get over. Just because, like, damn, it's like we're in these games, but it's just they can't. What's the word I'm looking for? They can't execute when the moment is shining brightest on them in those big fourth quarter moments. And until they figure that out, they could struggle. But still, there's a long way to go in the season, so I'm not really too worried about the Knicks as far as they're going to fall out of the playoff picture entirely. But yeah, they got some issues to work out, but they got 3/4 of the season to figure that out. So as far as like my panic level goes with them, it's probably like maybe like a 3 or a 4. It's not to the point like where it's like a 7 or an 8 yet. If they were a sub 500 team and they were really struggling, that'd be a little bit different. But I've seen enough as far as their offense goes to say, no, they'll be fine. It's just they got to work on the defensive side of the ball a little bit. And when you got a coach like Tom Thibodeau, I think you got the right guy in place there to kind of fix that issue.